David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight we have breaking news just as we come on. The horror on the highways, the massive pileups tonight. The images coming in now, blinding snow and dangerous winds from Michigan to Ohio to New York State. The dangerous driving conditions, multi-vehicle pileups across several states. At least 36 vehicles in a chain reaction crash on Interstate 81 south of Syracuse. Buses helping to pick up the victims. Elsewhere, the deadly school bus crash. Passenger planes taking off in low visibility. Lee Goldberg standing by with the forecast tonight. Also breaking, chaos erupting on the streets of Minneapolis. Another shooting there, a federal officer opening fire, wounding a man who DHS says fled from authorities. The clash then with protesters. Tonight, President Trump now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, what this would allow him to do. And tonight here, the woman seen pulled from her car. We now hear from her what she says she told ICE agents as they tried to pull her out. Tonight, President Trump welcoming Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado to the White House. She won the Nobel Peace Prize and she brought it to the White House, presenting it to President Trump in an effort to win him over. The president has said before, I can't think of anyone in history who should get the Nobel Prize more than me. Tonight, the major scandal. Have several college basketball games been fixed? Tonight, the players accused of underperforming in the games on purpose to get cash. Our investigative reporter Aaron Katersky on this tonight. This evening, the spectacular sight, 4 astronauts returning to Earth early. The first medical evacuation from the space station ever, and what we've learned. Tonight, actor Matthew McConaughey making news.
All right.
Taking action, what he's out to protect. Tonight, the images coming in, the dramatic exchange of gunfire. Deputies in a dangerous shootout with a suspect. 24 hours later, the refunds tonight for cell phone users who lost their service yesterday and how much you'll get. Also tonight, the armed robbery in New York City. Customers in the meatpacking district held at gunpoint. Tonight, the famous NFL coach fired, already in line for a new job. And it's the dinner hour, the restaurant server, and the embrace. You'll want to see this.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We do begin tonight here with the treacherous driving, major multi-vehicle pileups across several states tonight as a winter storm sweeps across the Great Lakes and right into the Northeast. Dangerous travel conditions on the highways. The images coming in now, at least 36 vehicles in a chain reaction crash. This is I-81. These images south of Syracuse and Lafayette, New York. These scenes playing out over and over again in several states. Passenger jets taking off in blinding snow. This is Rochester, New York. Planes disappearing from sight seconds after lifting off on the runway. All of this blinding snow and ice, brutal cold wind chills from this system right here. Temperatures in the teens tomorrow from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, New York to Boston. And then a second system right behind this moving into the Northeast. Lee Goldberg has the forecast and Whit Johnson with the images of a brutal day on the roads across multiple states tonight.
Tonight, the dangerous winter storm causing travel chaos, triggering multiple pileups. New video showing the mayhem on I-90 in Erie County, Pennsylvania. A violent chain reaction crash crushing cars and trucks, mangled metal littering the roadway. Several people rushed to the hospital. Some 80 miles south of there in Clarion County, Pennsylvania, first responders racing to the scene of this multi-vehicle crash on I-80. Just south of Syracuse, New York, this massive 36-car pileup on I-81 in Lafayette.
This is now all the way back into the way station, into our district. We've got cars everywhere.
At least 3 tractor trailers involved. 7 people rushed to the hospital, several with broken bones. The highway shut down for hours. More than a foot of lake-effect snow falling from upstate New York to Michigan. In Bridgman, Michigan, coming down at nearly 2 inches per hour. In Ohio, west of Cleveland, this man warning fellow drivers.
It was definitely a lot of snow out there, and it's slippery around every turn, so everybody be careful out there.
In Manhattan, Illinois, southwest of Chicago, a deadly head-on crash involving a school bus. A person in the car killed, 10 students and the bus driver taken to the hospital as a precaution. Temperatures below freezing, authorities investigating the cause. And David, the snow and freezing conditions only expected to get worse in many of these same areas overnight. And after we saw those massive pileups, drivers are urged to take caution and beware of black ice, with temperatures dropping into the 20s here in New York. David.
Whit Johnson leading us off tonight. Whit, thank you as always. Let's get right to WABC Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg. Lee, you did the weather for years in Syracuse with me. We know what those conditions are like, and they're back more than ever tonight.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, David. It was 52 here in New York yesterday. It feels like 22 now with a biting wind, and that's setting the stage for snow even here over the weekend. But first, the wind chills tomorrow morning. You're looking at wind chills of 3 in Syracuse, 11 Philly, 13 New York, 10 Boston, 15 below in Saranac Lake. We have lake snow warnings where we've seen up to a foot of snow. That's winding down at least for tonight. Snow coming into the Midwest could be a slippery commute in Chicago tomorrow morning as snow dives to the south and east, goes into Michigan and western New York later in the day, and then to the I-95 corridor. A couple of rounds along I-95 later Friday night into midday Saturday could be a coating to a couple of inches. Lake effect snow and another cold blast behind it. David.
The lake effect machine for sure. Lee Goldberg with us tonight. Thanks as always. There are also breaking developments from Minneapolis at this hour. Chaos erupting on the streets once again for the second time in a week now. A federal officer opening fire. A man wounded. DHS says he fled officers. Protesters clashing with law enforcement afterward. Tonight, the woman seen being pulled from her car. We now hear from her what she says she told ICE agents as they tried to pull her out. And President Trump tonight now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, which would allow him to send in the U.S. military. ABC's Faith Abubey from Minneapolis again tonight.
Tonight, new protests in the Twin Cities after the second ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis in a week. And now President Trump is threatening to send in military troops. Overnight, an ICE agent shot and wounded Venezuelan national Julio Cesar Sosa Celis. Homeland Security officials say Celis fled to a nearby home during a targeted traffic stop. And during the struggle, 2 men came out of the home and attacked the agent with a shovel and a broom handle. All 3 men are now in custody. As word of the shooting spread, some 200 protesters swarmed the scene, throwing fireworks, smashing vehicles, and fighting with police. The shooting comes a week after ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot Renee Good, and as some 3,000 federal agents roamed the city, pulling some from their cars. Many were frightened, and this interaction,
where were you born?
Recorded by resident Nimka Omar, a look at what it's like to be questioned.
Do you have an ID on you, ma'am?
I don't need an ID to walk around in my city. This is my city.
Okay, do you have some ID then, please?
I don't need an ID.
If not, we're going to put you in the vehicle and we're going to ID you.
I am U.S. citizen.
All right, can we see an ID, please?
I am U.S. citizen.
She refused to show identification, and eventually they left. Tonight, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey outraged over these stops.
I've seen conduct from ICE that is disgusting and is intolerable. If it were your city, it would be unacceptable there too.
But calling for residents to stay peaceful.
For anyone that is taking the bait tonight, stop. We cannot counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own brand of chaos.
And tonight, President Trump threatening the Insurrection Act, writing on social media, if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act would give the president the power to deploy U.S. military forces in Minnesota. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz is not asking for the military. He's asking to get ICE out.
To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, end this occupation. You've done enough.
And David, we've shown you video of a woman being pulled out of her vehicle by ICE agents this week as she tells them that she's disabled. Aaliyah Rahman is speaking out tonight. In a statement, she says she lost consciousness and had to be taken to the hospital and feels lucky to be alive. David.
Faith Abubey in Minneapolis for us. Faith, thank you. Tonight, President Trump welcoming Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado to the White House. She won the Nobel Peace Prize, and she brought it to the White House today, presenting it to President Trump in an effort to win him over. The president has said before, I can't think of anyone in history who should get the Nobel Peace Prize more than me. So did he keep it, and how did the meeting go? Here's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado meeting with President Trump at the White House. bringing a special gift in an effort to win his support, the Nobel Peace Prize she won.
I presented the President of the United States the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize.
President Trump has often complained that he didn't win that prize himself.
I can't think of anybody in history that should get the Nobel Prize more than me.
After President Trump captured Venezuela's former president, Nicolas Maduro, he was asked if Machado should lead the new Venezuela, considering her party says they won 80% of the vote in the last election.
Well, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country.
Since then, he has praised Venezuela's new acting president, Maduro's former second-in-command, Delcy Rodriguez. Today, Machado clearly hoping giving Trump her Nobel Peace Prize will help her cause.
As a recognition for his unique commitment with our freedom.
Tonight, our Mary Bruce asking the president,
how was the meeting with Machado?
Great.
And David Machado says that she gave President Trump that Nobel Peace Prize, but the committee that hands out the award has made it clear that once it is announced, it cannot be revoked, transferred, or shared with others, saying the decision is final and stands for all time. David.
Rachel, thank you tonight. Now to a major scandal unfolding. Have several college basketball games been fixed? Tonight, the players accused of underperforming in those games on purpose for cash. Here's Aaron Katersky.
And here comes Cross into the front court. Went behind his back, lost it.
For 3 years, federal prosecutors say some college basketball games around the country were fixed.
In the corner to Caresi.
And tonight, dozens of Division I players are charged with taking bribes from sports bettors to lose on purpose.
This was a massive scheme. It enveloped the world of college basketball. We're talking about dozens of games, athletes, 17 teams. I do view it as historic.
Now Hunter will get the Cowboy defender airborne and miss the shot.
In this 2024 game between New Orleans and McNeese State, the indictment says New Orleans guard Sidquavius Day Hunter agreed to underperform in exchange for thousands of dollars in bribe payments.
Hunter once again. This time he hits the three-pointer.
In an interview with ABC's Will Reeve, Hunter admitted to point shaving.
I make a couple and miss a couple. I was money hungry. That's how it was, money hungry.
David, college basketball players are allowed to make money legitimately by marketing their name, image, and likeness, but the indictment said the bribe payments were more lucrative, ranging from $10,000 to $30,000 per game. David?
Aaron Katersky, thank you. Tonight, the spectacular splashdown. 4 astronauts now back on Earth after the first medical evacuation from the space station ever. Here's Trevor Ault with the pictures.
Tonight, the incredible images of the first ever medical evacuation from the International Space Station. 4 astronauts splashing down back on Earth.
Splashdown of Crew 11.
The crew returning nearly 6 weeks early after one of the astronauts experienced a medical issue.
This crew came together as a family to help each other and just take care of each other.
The crew, including 2 Americans, then boarding the SpaceX Dragon and undocking from the space station. Hours later, their capsule lighting up the sky as they re-entered Earth's atmosphere. 2 rounds of parachutes deploying to slow the descent.
Standing by for splashdown.
And finally splashing down off the coast of San Diego.
SpaceX Dragon, it's so good to be home.
The crew seen smiling, safely back on Earth.
David, NASA says all crew members are being medically evaluated. It's not clear which astronaut experienced what medical issue, but NASA says that astronaut is doing fine. David?
Trevor, thanks so much. Tonight, with more than 20 million Americans seeing their health insurance premiums skyrocket, with Republicans blocking any extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Tonight, President Trump now unveiling what he says is his plan, but there are many questions. Here's Mary Bruce.
As millions of Americans watch their health insurance premiums skyrocket tonight after promising his own health care plan for more than a decade, President Trump finally unveiling what he calls his great health care plan. But health care policy experts tell us it leaves more questions than answers.
The government is going to pay the money directly to you. It goes to you, and then you take the money and buy your own health care.
But he did not explain how that would happen. His plan light on details. Just a few paragraphs on the White House website. Officials calling it a framework and a broad direction.
How exactly would this work? And can the president assure Americans that this will be enough to cover their health care costs?
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt implying Congress would flesh out the specifics.
Congress and the White House are going to work together to put this plan into action.
The president also wants Congress to turn into law deals he has already struck with pharmaceutical companies to bring down the cost of prescription drugs. And he wants insurance companies to be more transparent about their rates. In a new poll, 52% of voters say President Trump has hurt the cost of health care. This month, insurance premiums have soared for more than 20 million Americans after Republicans let subsidies in the Affordable Care Act expire. Astrid Story, a graphic designer and mom from Denver, Colorado, who's battling thyroid cancer, saw her monthly premium rise 35%, from $1,400 to $1,900.
How is that fair? How is that fair to a cancer patient that their first thought has to be, am I going to be able to afford the treatment that is going to keep me alive?
And again, David, there are very few details in the president's plan about how much money Americans would get and whether this would cover their health care costs. And all this as more than 20 million Americans are seeing their insurance premiums soar right now. David.
Mary Bruce back with us tonight. Thank you, Mary. Tonight, actor Matthew McConaughey taking action to protect himself and others from AI stealing his voice and face. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
$400 a month in dues, and you get all the meds you want.
Tonight, Oscar-winning actor Matthew McConaughey taking a stand against anyone planning to use AI to recreate his image, likeness, and voice without his permission.
All right, all right, all right.
The Hollywood star trademarking himself and his iconic catchphrase in the 1993 cult classic Dazed and Confused. 7 other trademarks also secured.
This place is perfect.
McConaughey, known for his southern drawl in films like Dallas Buyers Club and dance moves in Magic Mike.
But I think I see a lot of lawbreakers up in this house.
The actor telling the Wall Street Journal, the first to report the news, I want to know that when my voice or likeness is ever used, it's because I approved and signed off on it.
David, in a statement tonight to ABC News, McConaughey's lawyers say they embrace AI, they invest in it, and actively support its evolution. They add progress, however, should have boundaries. David.
Stephanie Ramos. Steph, thank you. When we come back, the famous NFL coach fired tonight, already in line for a big new job. In New York City tonight, the armed robbery in the meatpacking district, customers held at gunpoint. And tonight, after that cell phone blackout yesterday, tonight the promise of refunds now. So how much will you get? In a moment here. Tonight, the dramatic shootout between deputies and a carjacking suspect outside Denver. Authorities say the suspect fired at deputies after they pinned his vehicle. A deputy and the suspect injured, and that suspect under arrest. In New York City's meatpacking district, a terrifying armed robbery. Customers held at gunpoint. The thieves held up a Pokémon card store. An employee says they got away with more than $100,000 in merchandise. When we come back tonight, the famous NFL coach fired, already up for a big new job tonight. And will you get a cell phone service refund? In a moment. To the index, 24 hours after the service outage, Verizon now offering customers a $20 credit. More than 1 million Verizon users were unable to make calls or access data. To get the credit, log on to your My Verizon app. The New York Giants may soon have a new head coach. ESPN reporting tonight John Harbaugh, who coached the Ravens for 18 seasons, is now finalizing a coaching deal with the Giants. Stay tuned on this one. When we come back tonight, this is the dinner hour, of course. You have to see what one restaurant is serving up. Funny tonight, the 4-year-old and the hug on the menu every time. Tonight in Cleveland, Tennessee, outside Chattanooga, a family grateful for a remarkable bond between their 4-year-old daughter and her favorite server.
I love you, honey.
It's dinner time at La Altena Mexican restaurant, and the Hale family has been going there for years. You might think it's because of the food, and they love it, but their little one is there for something else. Her favorite server, Gabby. In fact, their daughter Oakley calls Gabby her best friend. Every time, watch this, little Oakley walking in, looking for her.
Yeah.
Asking, is Gabby here? Then she sees her, pointing to her. Oakley's arms in the air, running up to Gabby with a hug. They say their daughter considers Gabby to be one of her grandmothers, thankful for her love and her care, even helping her clean up after dinner. And right here tonight, hi, David. Little Oakley with her parents, Jordan and Casey, coming to us from where else but the restaurant.
Gabby is not here. She is actually in Mexico taking care of a family member, but we're gonna let you say hi to the rest of the staff.
Having Gabby in our lives has been such a gift, and seeing the bond between different generations just reminds us that love goes beyond differences, and that's the hope that we want to share.
Thank you, Gabby the server, bringing the food and the love. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America.